Hello, welcome to the Political Matrix News. We are honored to be have a guest here, Rick Outzen. He's with the Independent News over there in Pensacola. He's been a very big reporter here of Panhandle politics and Florida politics. He has a few books out and everything, and I think we're going to talk about that today. Hello, Rick. How you doing?
Doing well, Greg. Thank you for having me.
You're also one of my mentors and everything else in the journalism and
No,
political
you can't
journalism
blame
area.
me for that. Don't blame me
Guess
for
I'm going
that.
to blame you for all the trouble I caused. That's why I had to move 500 miles away. Anyway, Rick, I mean, I actually went to a meeting last night where I got to see Paul Renner speak for the first time on his campaign, and he's running for governor, for those who don't know, against Byron Donalds. And I guess Jay Collins is going to be jumping in the race here in the next couple of weeks, most likely the lieutenant governor here. And so, what do you think how the Florida governor's race is shaping up on the Republican side right now?
Well, it's interesting, Greg, because we know that typically when the seat is open, the early front runners rarely are the ones that are leading when it comes to the primary. We
Right,
saw that with Adam Putnam, 8 years ago or 7 years ago against DeSantis. DeSantis came out of nowhere, was a little known congressman, but the endorsement of Donald Trump really put him over. Adam
right,
Putnam. So, Rick Scott at one time was not favored. The first time he ran, came out of nowhere.
right.
So we've seen this happen a lot. So if you look at history, you would say Donald's looks like a shoe-in right now, but a lot can happen between now and then. And I think Renner is counting on that. Collins is counting on that. The Trump endorsement is huge for Donald's. It's definitely been helped him with the fundraising, but money doesn't pull levers, doesn't
No, it
fill the
doesn't.
box. So I think that, and it's still a huge hurdle for, I think, a woman or a black man to get elected in the state of Florida. That hasn't happened yet on a
Right,
statewide race. Not that it can't, and not that it shouldn't, but when you
exactly.
look at as a political, take a step back and just say, look at the situation, it's still a tough row for Donalds, and some polling has come back. James Madison showed that he's not as clear a front runner as he wants you to believe. So, I'm very interested in seeing how it unfolds.
Yeah, I mean, I was very interested. I heard a few different people giving some feedback about Byron Donald's events, and he's telling people that this is the first time he's ever been to their area. Which, if you're running for governor, you don't want to, advertise or put out there that that's the first time you've ever been to their community, and you had to wait until running for governor to be in their community. And so, I mean, the whole idea here of any kind of public servant is that you're already a part of the public community already. You're already, doing a lot of stuff in their community to make their community better and to enhance their life and everything else. Not just that you're just showing up now because you're running for governor. And if you weren't running for governor, you would never have been there before. So, I mean, that's kind of like the take that I think some people were taking off of that. And so I think, you have some messaging issues in that area there. I do know that he's, has the Trump endorsement, the Rick Scott endorsement, and a lot of the other endorsements. So I do think that's going to make a big play for his fundraising. But like you said, money does not pull levers; votes do. And it's going to be an interesting race. I mean, because Jay Collins. I mean, it's interesting. Trump was behind DeSantis, and now Trump is behind Byron. But Trump also has proven that he can change his mind. I mean, he might not stay behind Byron the entire time. So he might have a possibility of changing to Paul Renner, who's actually much more Trumpian on policies, or to a Jay Collins, who's being endorsed most likely by the governor, with his wife probably running as the lieutenant governor.
Yeah, DeSantis has a whole lot of money in his political committees
Right,
that he can put he can put wherever he wants to put it.
right.
That is, and it's an on and off love affair between him and DeSantis. Whether I mean him and the president, him and Trump, because it just depends on what the weather is that day.
Right.
And a big factor in that relationship is Susie Wiles, who's chief of staff
It is.
for Trump and doing a fantastic job, and has no love affair with DeSantis or his wife. They kicked her out of their campaign, and she's made them pay for it as far as
Right.
she really got involved in Trump and seems to be comfortable in that world. She's staying as chief of staff longer than anyone else. She's figured it
Yeah.
out. She's sharp. she can, I think some of what happens in this race, the CFO race, the attorney general race, Trump has come out for Uthmeyer just recently, in the attorney general's race. How real is that? Will that stick? So you're right. There's still a lot of time, Greg.
There's a lot of time. I mean, although there's less than a year away from the primary in political life, it's a lifetime. I mean, keep on talking about, as that when I was at this meeting last night in Flagler County, they kept saying they don't want to put signs out till like January or February. I'm like, people have already decided early, and they're worried about hurricane damage or stuff like that. I mean, it's very bizarre that people let all these outside factors factor how they want to communicate to the voters, thinking that everybody's just going to wait till the last minute. And although it is early, people still are making up. I mean, it's very hard to get people to change their mind once they make it up. And so if they make it up early, then you getting them to change it or flip. It's a lot of work.
It's really, campaigning is changing dramatically,
It
from
is.
where, gosh, in the last 20 years. And social media's role in it, mailers' role. I think the role of mailers are gonna go down some just because you're
Oh,
so,
digital.
the mailers become less important. Digital is there, TV has become more affordable, and has more reach than in the past. I think that the podcast world worked very,
Oh,
very
yeah,
well for this, for Trump in the last election. I think that it's going to become a bigger factor here in Florida.
definitely. Yeah, I think. I mean, still, at the end of the day, I mean, whoever does the most mail usually wins. But that's not usually because they're doing the most mail; it's because they have the most money to have a lot of communications. And a lot of people don't realize that just because you're doing 17 mailers, you're also doing a lot of digital that marries up with it. You're doing a lot of OTT, which is for digital advertising on TV commercials for all the cord cutters and everything else. So that all marries up with your direct mail. And so, I mean, and I keep telling people there's no one silver bullet to campaign stuff. But I think one new bullet in the chamber is the entire idea of podcasts and the digital medium, because you can take these type of shows that we're on today and just snippet it out and then use that as your TV commercial instead of having to just pay like $15,000 for some big production company to come in there and do your commercial for you. Because at the end of the day, the whole concept is messaging to your voters. And if you're messaging more authentically, this type of format is going to ring over a lot more true, a lot clearer to the voters, in my opinion.
Good point. Good point, Greg.
So I mean, that's why I think the power of what I think I like when on your website, on your YouTube, you said radio is dead. I don't agree. Radio is not dead altogether, but at the same time, compared to what the power it was before, whenever back in Pensacola you had Luke McCoy and WCOA and Don Priest and all those people who are leading the pack here for like 20 or 30 years on AM radio and Rush Limbaugh and all those days. I mean, everybody's now going to podcasts and they're all going to the digital medium because people are just, are not, well, they're paying attention, but between traffic and everybody cutting you off and the kids screaming in the car, it's hard to pay attention to the same degree.
Right. Well, and then people can, with XM and different availabilities of music sources and news sources from other medium, and you can listen to it in your car without having to plug anything in. It's with the Wi-Fi in your car, you can listen to whatever you'd like. So people are able to choose what they want to listen to and not necessarily be fixed on these are the only stations I can get on my
Right.
dial, and that's changed everything a lot. Same thing with television, same thing with newspapers, and I think that it's becoming we have to do this in a lot of different ways, and there's no like you said, Greg, there's not one formula, I'm gonna put all my money this way if I'm campaigning or in
Exactly.
advertising or anything. You're going to get into a silo, and you gotta get out of that silo to win.
Exactly. So tell us a little bit about your blog and your website and your new podcast. I mean, I think you started right around the time that we did. And so, I mean, you were on the radio before that, so I kept telling you to go to video, and I guess the radio people didn't want you to go to video yet, so you went ahead and took it upon yourself to do it on your own, which
Right.
I'm very happy about. Your podcast is great, by the way. It's
Thank
called "We
you.
Don't Color on the Dog," which is
Right.
a wonderful, wonderful name because I have a lot of kids who are coloring on my dog earlier
That
today. and my children and my grandchildren, sorry, I have, 8 grandchildren visiting for the last 2 months. They won't go home. They don't wanna go home. They love grandpa and grandma, and they love cuddling on my dogs. So, but, the whole concept here is that, don't I guess I'm assuming you don't wanna let the politicians whitewash anything, and so you wanna get to the truth of, the matter. So, tell us a little bit about that, what you're
Well,
doing.
yeah, the whole name really it was based on my grandson. My daughter sent me a text and said, "I never thought I'd have to say this. I just told Brooks we don't color on the dog." So I said, "Okay, that's the name."
I did it
Yeah.
an hour ago.
Yeah, yeah, that's the name. So it really is, as you know, I don't follow rules very well. I don't like
No, we
being
don't.
told what to do. That's kind of where it comes from. It is for us, for what I do. I've been doing the newspaper. We have been around since July 1st of 1999. We're a weekly newspaper that is edgier than mainstream. Um, and who would have thought I'd last this long? But we have. But it's been, we've been very fortunate. We've covered a lot of investigative things and been able to be a
That's
real
actually
one.
my first journalistic job was with the Florida Sun.
Yeah.
I wrote the Republican side for the editorials for, like, I guess, about a year and a half, or a year or so,
Yeah. So,
and that was 1999.
right. We really are issue driven more than just, not much political parties, but really
Right.
issue driven and how we do things. We're very, and the other thing that we added in 2005 was I added a blog called Rick's Blog, ricksblog.biz, and it has biz because in 2004 and 5, you only had a handful of options. You could be calm, and that was taken. You could be net, that was taken. And the other was gov or org, and those were for nonprofits and for government. So we ended up going with biz, and it's so entrenched in the community, we can't change. I'm not going to change it because now in Pensacola, if you say the blog, everybody knows what we're talking about. It's not anybody else's blog, and it is the on the pulse of what's happening in Northwest Florida. We do our best to see. It's a way to react to things very quickly. We post at least 3 times a day. This morning was a post on State Representative Michelle Salzman, who raised 113,000, and in the end for the last quarter, and only has 13,000 of it left. She did a fundraiser for the Blue Angels and lost money on it. So those are the kind of stories we do, and that's how we opened it up with today.
Okay.
And it does very, very well. And this year, Greg, we stepped it up where I've always been a little bit reluctant to get too heavy into social media, but we really upped it to where, we're on all the different platforms, and that's added that much more to it. And then
Good.
the podcast is where I can do an interview like this with you, and I can transcribe it, use it for a blog post, add it to some other interviews, and make a news story out of it for the newspaper. So it's a dance. You have to
It is.
constantly figure out all these pieces. Big news yesterday was David Stafford's gonna be the new city administrator
Oh,
for the
really?
city of Pensacola. Yes.
How's it
So
go? Really?
yes. So that longtime election
That's a big change.
supervisor that retired, and now he's coming back. So we broke that story yesterday, and which I'm real excited for Dave
Yeah.
because he's
It's
one of the
very
good
exciting for
guys.
the city, actually, because I
Yeah.
mean, he was a great supervisor of elections. In fact, not to do any sliding toward Bender, but, compared to or Bonnie Jones before him, but I think David Stafford's probably one of the best SOEs that we ever had in Escambia County in my, young
Well, he was
lifetime.
nationally known for what he did. He testified before Congress on election security, worked on several national panels
Right.
to keep it secure.
I mean, because compared to when I left there, I went to Alachua County for 2 years, and I was telling you about Kim Barton, the SOE over there. And I mean, we have several dead people voting and several people who are not legal voting. We have a lot of student visa people voting. We have a lot of people who are changing their vote on we have these 7 or 8 precincts they had that had over 120% turnout.
Wow.
And so, I mean, they had several precincts where people were changing their address to vote, because in Florida, you can still vote anywhere in the county or in the state, If you change on election day, you can even do that. But it's supposed to be a provisional ballot. However, she overlooked that part. And so instead of having 7,000 provisional ballots, she had 20
Wow.
provisional ballots and 6,980 real ballots that should have been provisional because they weren't even legal citizens. They weren't even, I mean, they had student visas. They transferred over, and basically they're using an address of a building that wasn't even fully constructed yet. They're using floors that weren't even done yet, that had no plumbing, no electricity, but they were residing there. And they did not have American names or any kind of names. And in fact, we could not even find them. They had phone numbers that were all went to disconnected numbers. And they
Wow.
voted. And they voted very well. And there are several elections that were only won by like 40 votes or a few hundred votes. They were very close elections. There are 7,000 voters that did this on the last 3 days of early voting.
Wow.
And they seem to overlook it because she won by a large margin. They voted for her, so she was okay with that. But she is also recovering from a scandal earlier where they had people from the elections office go into the jails and register voters that were prisoners who still did not have their voting rights back yet. But they just went ahead and pencil whipped it, and and they got them, and people went to jail for it as for voter fraud and everything else. But I mean, this is the type of administration that I left Escambia to go to Alachua. Now I'm in Flagler County now. It's very similar to the way Stafford did it in Escambia County. It's very honest. But I mean, there are several SOEs that need to be looked at, and it's not very party line because I mean, it's the Democrats are doing it and Republicans are doing it. So it's a very bipartisan effort of cronyism pushing the cheating. So basically, I think most of the local guys can keep their contracts.
Yeah, we've been in a really good position in Escambia County, and we've had our scandals over the years, but, we had Joe Mixon,
Yeah,
who was there for decades. Bonnie Jones worked in his office. She
right.
became right after him. She did a really good job. David was a, chief of staff for Joe Scarborough, who was
Exactly.
congressman, and then went with him to MSNBC. He came back home and did it for 20 years,
Yeah,
stepped down
he did a
for a
great
job
job.
with Homeland Security, but he got doged when
That's what happened.
yeah,
He got doged.
yep, he did. He hadn't been there a year, and they just automatically knocked everybody out that had been there less than a year, which, again, totally unfair way that was
Yeah,
handled.
it is.
He was one of the best in the country, but having back and doing being involved in government, and like you said, he knows the community, people trust him. It's a great
Yeah,
move from Mayor DC Reeves. So that was the big story yesterday, and we broke that. So it's the blog and the paper work well. I love podcasting. I like interviews.
yeah,
I like it more than radio, Greg, because I'm not worried about an advertiser needing to come on. I'm not worried about having to, because sometimes on radio you feel like you have to explain things 2 or 3 times because you
right.
don't know when somebody's gonna tune in. So you have to
Exactly.
kind of up.
And that's what people don't realize the powerful issue with visual and nonverbals. And that's one thing I always told everybody is that, a lot of your nonverbals say a lot more than what your words are saying. And on the radio, you can't see that at all. And you can't have the same context or the same inflection that you do whenever you're on the radio. I mean, a podcast is so much more, intuitive and engaging. And also, you don't have to worry about the commercial break. You don't have to worry about breaking your flow. You can just stay in your same flow, your same mindset, and just keep it going.
Well, and this software that you're using is the same one that I use, Riverside FM, and it really does a good job
That's
of
awesome.
editing, and that is smooth. You can edit fairly smoothly. You can, cut out if someone's repetitive or they've messed up and they wanna start over, you can do it with it's just a really smooth
Right.
operation, and I've used it. I guess we both used about the same amount of time, and
Yeah.
what we're seeing is it's getting better and better.
Well, it's enhancing weekly.
Yeah, it creates clips for you. It does so many different things. So this medium, and this is what when I do interviews with some of the national networks and with some of the documentary, true crime things, I do some stuff with them. This is the same system they use. So
Right, exactly. I mean, it's actually I heard Jon Stewart uses the, Riverside platform, and that's the reason why when I saw him doing it, I think, a few other, big podcasters were using it. I was like, I don't really wanna I have an articulation issue already. I have a speech impediment already, so I need everything possible to enhance every single form of communication that I have available to me, and the price is actually very good for it. So I mean, it's not outrageous or anything like that.
No,
And so I
and
mean,
they
it's
keep
it's a very
improving it.
decent price that
Yeah,
any home person can afford, really.
right, and they keep improving it.
But yeah, tell
I've
me
been
about your
doing.
new book. Your new book. I don't really agree with the premise on it because I still think the reason for the economic development downtown is what my dad did with moving the sewage plant, not the maritime park. But you can't really have the maritime park without moving the plant anyway. Because imagine if they would have left the old stinky down there. The maritime park would have been eating a hot dog and playing baseball and old stinky. Not a good mix.
Well, moving the sewage treatment plant was huge, Greg, and I think both of them really were timed about the same time, and I think
You
each
were, yeah.
one motivated the other.
Yeah, Hurricane Ivan motivated the sewage plant, and this moving the sewage plant, I think, motivated the ball field.
Yeah, yeah, for your viewers in Pensacola, in the early 2000s, Pensacola was in the doldrums. We had 4 county commissioners that were in jail or been
Right,
charged, removed from office. And our economy was slipping. We had at one point, Pensacola's average wage was a dollar higher than the rest of the state, and by 2002, we were 50 cents less than the rest of the
right.
state. We had lost 15% of our jobs used to be in manufacturing. It was down to 5. We were struggling, and we got hit with Ivan, and our town was set up just because the way things worked in those days. The sewage treatment plant was downtown because the water flowed downhill, and
Exactly.
back in the 60s, putting water into a bay, putting sewage into a bay, nobody
Normal.
thought that would be bad.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought you didn't want to swim with sewage? You know what I mean? It's kind of like New York. New
Yeah,
York
well,
loves it. Why can't people in Florida love it?
so the sewage treatment plant was there. They did all sorts of efforts to try to it had a horrible odor come from it, and it's just
Horrible is an understatement. So, I
well, it
mean,
was
people would
just
go to lunch and give their lunch back in the parking lot.
well, what we used to call it was we had the poot index. So when you went outside, depending on the level of the odor, if it was 1 to 3, you could go outside, but you had to quickly go inside somewhere. If it was 4 to 6 or 4 to 7, small children and dogs can't go outside. And then if it was higher than 8, no one should go outside because the odor would drift over from the west side of town downtown. And today you have tables outside, restaurants,
Right. The outdoor
expanded
eating.
seating. Back then, nobody sat outside. So
No.
the sewage treatment plant was right there. There was a piece of land across from it, which it now has the ballpark. The book
Right.
is right idea, right time. It was a huge referendum fight to do it, and it gives you behind the scenes story of all the different things that happened. This is before there was Facebook, there was radio, the opinion
True.
page of the news
It
journal,
was a
and
hard
then
campaign. 'Cause
us.
I actually worked against you on the campaign. I was on the
Yeah.
opposite side, and I lost. And in retrospect, I was wrong. I'm okay with saying that. But I mean, the whole concept was that I think a lot of us who were against it were thinking it was going to be the same type of boondoggle that stuck us into economic doldrums that we were in already, and we had a lot of lack of trust of the community leaders and the government leaders. A lot of people who were against it, they were just thinking they were being sold a bag of goods again because I mean, a lot of them were in an economic depression area, especially after Hurricane Ivan. A lot of people were like, where's our help? I mean, it's interesting. You have a very conservative Republican area who's very good about no government helping them at all until they need the help. Kind of flips around, and well, I need help in my backyard. It's kind of NIMBY in reverse. It's like instead of NIMBY, it's YIMBY. Yes, in my backyard. Yes, I
Well,
need the help.
yeah,
And
when
so, I mean, that mindset, I think, was driving the anti side to it because, I think a lot of the other people who are anti just wanted nothing, which is ridiculous.
as a community, we've been beaten up pretty bad. Having 4 commissioners removed from
Exactly.
office really hurt the overall spirit of the community. And I think that there was a lot of distrust in
Right.
government at that time, local officials because of that. I think that, there was a mentality that we could only do one or the other,
Exactly.
that we could only move the plant, the sewage treatment plant, or, do we really wanna do a ballpark look to be lagniappe, look to be something extra? Is that
Exactly.
something we want to do? And what we have found out is that both of those together have been we have seen property values downtown now in the overall property value of downtown and the CRA is over $1 billion now.
Yeah. I mean, people were flocking away from downtown, now they're flocking
Right,
to downtown.
right.
And it's
Yeah,
actually almost like downtown's not really downtown, it's more like the town.
mhm.
And because it's enhancing so much, it's not just 44 square blocks in downtown Pensacola on the waterfront area. It's actually enhancing more to where all of its tentacles are helping the rest of the city grow bigger and the county grow bigger.
We got 1,500 more people living in the downtown area, more housing, more, and it really I think what we did with it, Greg, is we showed the world we would invest in ourselves,
Right.
and we were able to pay the bonds back. The sewage treatment plant being moved has really opened up. It's helped ECUA not only,
Yeah.
not having to deal with that environmental headache every
Exactly.
year after year, but open them up to the middle part of the county to where they're now in the central part of the county with their new plant,
Yeah.
and it's state of the art, and they've expanded their business by being there,
Exactly. I
so
mean,
it worked out.
everything lifted up. Everything went, upwards, and that was very good. And so that's what is. So your book that you have. What's the name of your book?
It's Right Idea, Right Time, which was the
Right
name
idea, right time.
was the name of the slogan. It's available on Amazon. It's fairly inexpensive, but it's a real kind of blow by blow explaining why we were where we were, how we got out of it, all the
Okay.
different twists and turns. Because
Right.
I've actually found old blog posts that I thought I had lost. And we went through the archives of the news journal and our archives,
Right.
did a bunch of interviews with people. So it's stories that people don't know, but also is a story of a town that had kind of lost its identity and how it came
Right.
back. So I
It
think
did.
all that's part of it.
And what about the other books? You have a Walker Home series.
Yeah,
Tell people about
yeah.
that a little bit.
It's fun. I wanted to do some fictional books. I've created some mystery thrillers. Walker Holmes is a
Is it really fictional
newspaper.
though? I mean, because I think we talked about when you're writing it. I don't think it's too fictional, but it's fictional, but not.
Well, it's fun. People locals like it because they think they know who everybody is in the book, and
Yeah.
I do. What I've done is taken stories that all of us grew up with and then added a twist to it that's 100% fictional. But people remember the story, and so they start, so it connects them to everything that's in it. It's a newspaper publisher with a weekly in Pensacola dealing with corruption and murder and
You're not talking about Randy Hammer, are you?
politics. No, and it's they both of them have done really, really well. There's a third book that we've got coming out pretty soon. All of them are sort
Oh,
of
really? You
based.
got a third one.
Yeah, third one's
How do you have
closed.
all this time?
I don't have all this time. That's the problem. This one's taken 5 years because I just write it when I get a chance. But no, it's been fun. They have been very well accepted. And they're based the first one is sort of centered around the Maritime Park. And then the second one is we had a jail explosion. So it's built around that.
Exactly.
It's and the third one is sort of very loosely based around the Billings murder case. So it's
Okay.
taking elements of those and having fun with them, and
There's still conspiracies about that out there.
always there's conspiracies about it wouldn't be Pensacola if there wasn't no conspiracies.
That's very true.
But that's it's fun to do it. It's fun to create characters and have fun with
Right.
them, and Walker gets beat up an awful lot. He gets in trouble all the time. Created in one of the books, there's a restaurant that I said had a tunnel in it, and they still have people come in from out of town wanting to know where the tunnel is. So, I
Ah,
love it.
it's funny.
I
There
love
are
it.
no tunnels in Pensacola.
No, no, but there's a whole
The water
serendipity
table is way
of
too
discovery
high.
there.
Yes, if you build a tunnel in Pensacola, for those who don't know anything about Pensacola, you'd be flooded,
Exactly.
or you need almost $1 billion to do the infrastructure properly. But real quick about the government shutdown, what do you think? I mean, we're on day 9 now of the government shutdown. What do you think the best solution is right now to put you on the hot seat with that one?
Yeah, I think, the best solution is the one that won't happen. Both sides need to talk to each other and figure out a middle. It's politics works in a world of compromise.
Right.
Nobody gets everything that they want. But both sides are raising money from the shutdown.
Exactly, and that's one thing we talked about in our podcast a lot with Scott, and people don't realize this. All this is a fundraising scheme. This is all ringing cash registers, and
Right. Oh,
I mean, people don't get it. I mean, they don't give a tootin' if these people are losing their jobs or not. I mean, the IRS laid off 48% of the people here today, furloughed them, and nobody cares. I mean, it's the IRS, for God's sake. Somebody really empathizes with them all that much anyway. But they're just ringing cash registers, ringing fundraising levers, and everything else. And because I mean, I think political fundraising is the number one fundraising out there.
right. Right, and this works I'm on the email sides of both
Yeah, me
parties.
too.
Get to see how they're campaigning off of this stuff or fundraising off of it, so it's very big for both sides. I think, this what we don't know yet, and this is we were just starting to get to the point where we kinda understood the real impact of Doge and all the people being furloughed and let go and what the new world looks like with a federal government that's been cut, 20-25%. What are the services we're gonna lose? We don't know yeah,
We're
and
seeing that now before our eyes.
this mask all that now, so we don't really know. I mean, I've been really, really concerned about if we got hit with a hurricane, what would FEMA look like? Because we're getting nightmare stories in Texas and Missouri and other places where FEMA is not showing up for days, and we're used to them being there in 24 hours, 48
Yeah, it
hours.
was 20 years ago.
Yeah, well,
That was
it's
20 years ago. I mean,
5 years ago,
they're
but
they're 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 not they're responsive. They've gone slack in here the last few years, but I mean, right now they're gonna slack a lot because their funding has been cut so substantially over the last decade, and their response time has been cut along with their funding. People don't realize it. These guys, it takes money to get these people out there. I mean, and government is not prioritizing people in that right manner to do that.
well, the point is right now is we just don't the shutdown's masking that much more. So we don't
Exactly.
know things like, council on aging and, taking care of seniors, taking care of children, all
Yeah.
these kind of things. What's that gonna look like? We don't know, and we were getting to the point with the new fiscal year, that was when we were supposed to start seeing it, and that's been delayed. So, we don't know what the new normal is, and I think that's, that is as a journalist, I don't, I tell my writers and I tell the public is I'm not a sports journalist. I don't have to predict a score. I'm gonna watch the game. And I'm gonna
Right.
watch what happens as the systems unfold and these changes unfold. I'm not gonna go out and say the sky is falling because we've seen too many times when people do that. I wanna wait and see how it unfolds. I mean, we've done that with UWF. That story is huge. We've done it with others. Get a little bit ahead of it. Be sure you can document it, but we don't have to predict the score. So I don't
So,
know.
so what are your biggest stories of the year that you've covered?
The biggest story has this year has been UWF, the overhaul of the board of trustees. So
What happened with the UWF issue? For people who don't know, it's the University of West Florida.
right, yeah, sorry. We had the governor replaced the board of trustees with 8 picks of people with very little connection to the university and to Pensacola.
Really?
Yeah, right. And one of them was from Boise, Idaho. The other one was from West Virginia. They were lobbyists
No way.
wild. Yeah, it was crazy. And we had a university that Martha Saunders, 9 years in, high in the metrics on all the performance things, and now she's gone. The education commissioner has that job. He's gonna get paid $1 million a year. They've given him $1 million to redo his office.
Really?
And yeah, so it's been a story that I think they underestimated if the community would care about the university. They thought DeSantis won by, 2 to 1, and he totally misjudged how passionate the community is about the University of West Florida.
Well, we're passionate about accountability. I mean, that's one thing I will say about Pensacola is that it's very passionate about. It's also very intuitive to where it's not like people can just get away with stuff there. There's always going to be somebody who's going to get you, or or call you out if you're breaking the rules. And to think that you can sneak anything underneath the rug in the Escambia County or Northwest Florida, it's not going to work.
Right. I think that has been a big story that has held through the year, and people wanna like Manny Diaz, the interim president, because they want UWF to succeed, but his actions and the board's actions keep undermining it.
Right.
And and then we also have Pensacola State College. They're the first college in the state of Florida to disaffiliate, disconnect from PBS.
Really?
They have a foundation that raised over $5 million for just public television, and they've decertified it. So we've got a public.
No way.
Yeah, it's a story that's bubbling, that's gonna be interesting. And then we have the
Wow.
story of Pam, our county clerk, a car being blown up in her neighborhood, and supposedly it was a blackmail extortion effort behind it. That trial, they've arrested the guy from New York, so that'll happen. That trial hopefully will start next month, so we'll see it. For a little bitty area, we got a lot of interesting stories.
Yeah, little bitty town of Pensacola, which is not
That's
a
it.
little bitty town anymore. It's the big small town of Pensacola.
Right.
Real quick, back to the governor's race. I forgot to mention we have another Republican running as a Democrat with Jolly, and is he the only real Democrat front runner running in this race for the governor seat?
Deming from Orlando, I think it's Jerry Deming, is
Yeah, Jerry.
definitely considering getting in the race. So we keep hearing that as a real possibility. Jolly's message is doing very well. He had a fundraiser here. A lot of Republicans came to it. There's a lot
Yeah, I mean he's a Republican for
right,
40 years.
right. And I think that
I Charlie Crist.
right, but I think he's a little bit more substantial than Chris. But he doesn't have the name identification.
No,
Let's just say they had a fundraiser here. A lot of Republicans went to it. This area is disenchanted with DeSantis, and so there's they want their university back.
right,
They want Greg. The thing people I think miss in the DeSantis and in the way the Republican Party is moved, we're more libertarian as a state. We want hands off. We don't want Tallahassee telling us how to run our schools, run our communities. And we want to elect people and people that we get to see every day at the grocery store.
right.
And we want to hold them accountable. So this move to bigger government, which is really what DeSantis has done, rubs people wrong.
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, we
So
are a traditional Newt Gingrich type of small government, concept of rule of law, and this whole bloating out the government the way they're bloating it is not going to, in my opinion, is not going to make anybody too happy. I mean, I think it's ironic that Republicans who run a small government are enlarging the government, and they're just doing the exact opposite of what they're saying, which is political speak, but also sad.
well, they're driving it on a principle, that we need to clean up things, and to do it, you got to pay them and their buddies to do it. So I think there's a lane for Jolly. Can Jolly stay in that lane and not get dragged into the far left
Right.
views that are inside the Democratic Party?
I think he'll stay moderate.
Well, I think you will. I just don't know if the party will accept him. I mean, we've seen that before. You were involved in Rebecca Jones' campaign. You look at Democrats eat their own.
Yes, they do.
Rather than rallying around somebody, they would rather jump over to it's the
Yeah, I
most
mean, I mean, we got a lot of feedback after the campaign on Rebecca Jones's race. It was very interesting feedback. But right now she's working with Antifa, so God bless her.
I don't know what Antifa is.
I don't
So,
either. She's a PR person for him.
eh, yeah.
So who
I
knows?
did but the point is that Democrats don't play well with each
No, they
other,
don't.
much less anybody else. So that's the problem that Jolly's gonna have, but I think there's a room for him, there's a way, there's a path,
There is.
but but so much the Republican is it's that libertarian strain of Floridian that's been there forever and ever is been muted, and I don't know if it will come out and we start seeing more of it. But some of the, um, it's been interesting to watch, and I think
It
there's a
is.
lane for that. So we'll see.
Real quick, I want to ask one last question about education. What do you think of the state? I mean, I know Escambia County, are they still struggling with their educational policies and the schools compared to the rest of the state? Or how do you think the state is doing compared to the national average? I mean, the DeSantis keeps on saying we're near the top of the national rankings. Yeah, keep seeing all these students who can't give me change back. And I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around kids who aren't going to school and enhancing the grade structure of our educational system here in Florida, or is it prejudicial?
I'm gonna give you a scoop it'll be my big feature story next week. The problem that we have, we education is a $4 billion business in Florida between public schools, private schools, homeschooling, all the school scholarship
Right,
and vouchers. There's $300 million floating around in the system. Not that it's been stolen by anybody, but they don't know where those kids are.
right,
23,000 kids. They don't know if they're in public or they're in private. Are they being homeschooled? They don't
exactly.
know where they are. 23,000.
I can see that.
And so you've got private schools that are taking on kids that maybe started at homeschooling or started in a public school, and they're educating, but they're not getting the tuition money. You got public schools where, let's say, a military family, the dad gets deployed, the wife was going to homeschool, but now she's got to get a job. They go back to public school. The public school's not getting the money. Then the bigger story is special needs kids, kids that they go to a private school that can handle their special needs. And when they get to the private school, they went as sort of a vanilla, it's not that bad. But when they assess them in private in the school, they say, this is much more severe than we thought. They can't get the extra money. They're getting only 8,000. They should be getting 33,000. And
Hmm.
payments are getting delayed. So the system there it's an accounting nightmare. The company that's the nonprofit that's running it, Step Up for Students, is making $170 million a year to run the program and not accounting for it. This is the issue no one wants to talk about.
Right.
And I was on the phone with Senator Don Gates yesterday, and he was saying, Rick, we're going to fix it, but it's going to take everybody coming to the table. Nobody's getting the money, but it's $4 billion and 300 million of it is somewhere in the system.
Nobody knows where it is.
We don't know. They don't know where the child is. They don't have a system to keep up with it.
Well, this is my ignorance speaking here. I mean, the private schools, are they supposed to report the students to the government, or do a lot of them think that since they're private schools, they don't have to report anything to the government where the students are?
Well, if they want the tuition, if they want to get reimbursed, they
Well, the
have
parent is paying for
the
it, though.
parents, the money goes directly to the private school. It doesn't go through the parents.
But is the school telling the government that those kids are in their school, or are they keeping that private because they're private?
No, they're telling if they want the money, they're telling them they're in the school. They have to. They have to, the tuition check goes directly to the school.
Okay.
So, but what's happening is either the tuition check went to the school and the kid ends up going back to public school and the money doesn't come out of the coffers back to the public schools. The public schools
Right.
need to
And
take
so
care
she
of
keeps
kids.
going to a private school for educating a kid in a public school. Or like in a homeschool, it's going to a public school for educating a kid in a homeschool, or it's going to a homeschool for so
Money
on and
doesn't
so
follow
forth. So
they're not
it's not
keeping
keeping
up.
up with the kids.
Right. They're not keeping up with the kids. And then we've got kids with special needs that graduate out of the system.
Right. I have two autistic children who did that.
They're graduated out of the system, but their families are still getting money. and they keep trying to tell the state, our kids, is 18, they're not in, and they keep the checks keep coming to them.
Really?
Yeah, and they
Yeah,
don't have
well,
a
that did not
system
happen to us.
right.
Oh, wait, yeah, well, I have 2 autistic boys, and they both graduated around when they were, like, 21, 22 years
Right.
old,
Yeah,
everything
you
else,
age
but,
out of the
the
system.
system went directly. I mean, I have no idea how the system works where the parents are getting the check directly. That's pretty bizarre.
Well, that's the system now. They set up accounts.
Really.
So they've set up accounts. So
They should
it's
stop that.
the
That
whole
that that should
thing.
not be happening.
This
Disabled parents, I mean, parents of disabled children will keep that milk going as long as they can. Because, I mean, first of all, people don't realize it's very hard to raise disabled children. And most of the people who are doing it are having to stop work to do it. And I mean, it really is a full-time job. And so any kind of support they get, they're not going to voluntarily just go out there and say, hey, we need to stop it. And
well,
so, I mean, great.
you're
I'm not saying they need to be punished, but at the same time, the abuse is very, very possible to be
300,000,000 floating out there, and
exactly
it needs to be dealt with. We created a system that we wanna be the America's state for the school choice state, and we
right.
we don't have the system set up to handle it, and that's gotta change.
That's
So,
that's
that's the big story for next week.
that's a good story.
It
Well,
is.
thanks for joining me here today. Hopefully, we can do this more frequently here.
I'd love to. We'll do it, Greg. Good luck.
But go ahead and tell us your website again, real quick,
It
and where they can
is
find your book
Rick
and all
Rick
your books that you have.
inweekly.net's the newspaper. Ricksblog.biz is the blog. We Don't Color on the Dog is on YouTube. And the books are the latest is Right Idea, Right Time. We also have City of Grudges and Blood on the Water. If you go to ricksblog.biz, you can connect to all these things and do it. But Greg, thank you for having me on. I really
And
appreciate it.
I probably look forward to doing it again soon.